Inside a tent, two people are sleeping when a noise begins to sound from outside. The older man gets up to investigate, grabbing a knife, but when he looks out the window, he sees nothing. He turns back relieved to the younger boy when suddenly, the wall collapses, and a bizarre creature attacks him. The boy quickly rolls out of the house and runs into the forest, with the alien monster right behind him. The boy seems to have supernatural abilities, leaping long distances easily and landing unharmed. Though he manages to evade the creature, another alien grabs him by the neck. This alien tears a mysterious, glowing necklace from his neck and, with a knife, kills the boy, who then turns to ashes and disappears. The alien adds the charm from the boy's necklace to his collection. The scene shifts to a boy named Daniel, who is joyfully riding a jet ski in the ocean, wearing the same mysterious necklace from before. Daniel shows off his impressive tricks in the water while his friends tease him for showing off. Later that night, at a bonfire on the beach, Daniel receives a text message from a beautiful girl named Nicole, asking to meet at the pier to swim. He enters the water to find her, and while they flirt, Daniel's leg starts to burn and glow, developing a new scar. He sinks, clutching his leg, and sees visions of the alien that killed the young boy. Nicole, terrified by Daniel's glowing leg, gets out of the water and tells her friends. Daniel wakes up alone on the beach the next morning, with his new scar raw and red. A man approaches, holding a shiny silver knife. Daniel, sad, tells the man, whose name is Henry, that number 3 is dead. Now that Nicole has seen Daniel's glowing leg, their cover is compromised, and they need to leave the area. While Henry packs his things into an SUV, a lizard crosses the pier and enters their bags. Henry is not Daniel's father but a warrior from his home planet, assigned to keep him safe from his real father. Daniel inherited a kind of box but will not receive it until the right moment. We find out that the scars on his legs are signs that the Mogadorians, the aliens hunting him who just killed number 3, have found him. He got his first scar when the Mogadorians landed on Earth and the second years later when they killed number 2. Last night marked the third scar, meaning they killed number 3. When Daniel was just a child, the Mogadorians invaded his home planet, Lorien, and 9 gifted children escaped, being the last of their kind. Now, with 3 gifted children dead, Daniel, who is number 4, knows he is next. Daniel and Henry enter a motel and secure new identities, ending up in Paradise, Ohio, in an abandoned house. This time, Daniel does not go to school or join teams because it's better to remain invisible. Meanwhile, the lizard leaves the SUV and transforms into something much larger. The two hear something moving outside, knife ready, and the lights are quickly turned off. Daniel hides while Henry goes out to investigate but sees nothing in the rain except a sad dog. Now, Daniel, who has a new name, John, brings the dog inside, and they name him Bernie after a football player whose poster hangs on the wall. Meanwhile, back at the old house on the beach, a blonde woman is rummaging through the place, searching for something. Unable to find what she's looking for, she sets everything on fire. The fire threatens to consume her, but a blue light emanates from her as she walks out unscathed. John tries to convince Henry to let him go to school, promising to check in on his phone every hour so Henry knows he's safe, and Bernie, the dog, secretly follows him to school. While waiting outside the principal's office, John notices Sarah, who is in trouble for posting pictures of teachers on her site without permission. Sarah leads John to his locker, but when he introduces himself as John Smith, she seems to not believe him. John tries to spend the day at school being invisible, as Henry told him, but notices a group of popular boys, led by a guy named Mark, tormenting another student by hitting him in the face with a soccer ball. John throws the ball back at the bully with such force that he falls into the bushes. Sarah witnesses everything and snaps photos for her site, which Henry quickly rushes to delete. Now, back at the old residence, the Mogadorians have located the now burned house, sniffing around, and by the scent, they can tell that John is still alive. Back at school, Mark, the bully, approaches John to dissuade him from getting too close to Sam, the science nerd they like to torment. As Mark talks, John's hands start to glow, and he tries to hide it but ends up running into a supply closet and passing out. He wakes up a little later with Henry watching him. Henry explains that his powers are developing, the abilities inherited from his parents called legacies, and that he needs to learn to control them before going back to school. Thus, John sneaks out of the house and practices controlling his powers, like the lights in his hands, his super strength, and super speed. Meanwhile, a Mogadorian is disguising himself as a human to buy supplies and is hauling frozen turkeys in a truck to feed an alien monster. Night falls over the town, and John tries to talk to Sarah, who invites him to dinner at her house. On the way, they see Sam getting into trouble with his stepfather. At dinner, John genuinely seems to enjoy himself, as it's his first interaction with a real family while ignoring Henry's calls. After dinner, the two go up to Sarah's room to talk. They get very close and almost kiss when Bernie starts barking outside, ruining the moment. Upon exiting the house, John is spotted by Mark, who is parked right outside. The next day at school, Sam warns John that Mark and his cronies are after him for getting so close to Sarah. Mark plays another trick on Sam, splattering red paint on his locker and ruining a photo Sam keeps of his dad. As John asks Sam about his dad, Henry does his own investigating online. It seems that Sam's dad, Malcolm, believed in aliens and mysteriously disappeared one night in the woods. Henry, seeking clues, goes to Malcolm's old workplace, a steel mill, and finds a hole in the ground that leads to a dark room. On the walls, there are chalk drawings matching the alien symbol from John's necklace, and on the floor, Henry finds a glowing blue geode. Henry takes the geode home and ponders the work Malcolm was doing. Meanwhile, John receives a text from Sarah asking to meet him at the county fair that night. Despite his apprehensions, he meets her, and Sarah confesses that she used to date Mark. The two decide to go on a scary hayride when something with green vision chases them. At the end of the ride, they are attacked by Mark and his friends. One of them grabs Sarah and drags her away. John doesn't realize it's just a prank and ends up hitting all the boys, accidentally revealing his superpowers to Sam, who watches the events closely. The man who takes Sarah brings her to Mark, who wants to interrogate her about their breakup. John arrives, almost hurting Mark out of rage, before Sarah stops him. Now, at Sarah's house, John tries to keep his distance from her, knowing he can't get too close because of who he is, but they end up kissing on her front porch. On the way home, he discovers a new power when suddenly a street lamp bursts. He then receives a text from Sam, who saw what John can do and wants to discuss it with him. They meet in a garage, and Sam pleads to know the truth about aliens. John reluctantly reveals that aliens are real but forces him to promise not to tell anyone. The next morning, the town sheriff, who is Mark's dad, shows up to investigate what happened the night before. John dodges the question, and as soon as the sheriff leaves, Henry decides they need to leave town immediately, not because of the sheriff, but because a video of John with his glowing scar was posted online. John refuses to leave because he has taken an interest in Sarah and ends up arguing with Henry. Henry explains that John is important to the fate of the world, only he and the other 5 gifted children can stop the Mogadorians from continuing to decimate planets. With this, Henry gives John a day to say goodbye. Meanwhile, the blonde woman who burned the beach house finds the video of John's glowing leg posted online. Now, John plans to go to Sarah's house, but can't find Henry anywhere. He tries to call, but someone different answers and gives him an address to go to. John calls Sam for help, and the two head to the address given by the man on the phone. Meanwhile, John informs Sam more about aliens and Mogadorians. Sam brought a gun, but John refuses to let him get out of the car because he might get hurt. However, this doesn't stop him. They slink around the place and observe a man exiting a car, believing the house is empty of enemies. John uses his powers to unlock the door and enter. Using his glowing hand as a flashlight, he finds Henry's knife and notes that the walls are covered with newspaper clippings about mysterious disappearances and alien sightings. They find Henry handcuffed in the basement, and John goes to free him when suddenly another man appears, holding Sam at gunpoint. John manages to turn the lights off with his powers while Henry disarms the man, who turns out to be a common conspiracy theorist who made a deal with the Mogadorians to capture John. And the Mogadorians arrive, coming down the stairs to the basement with a weapon that shoots red fire. Henry attacks the man, giving John and Sam a chance to escape. The three jump into a car, but Sam loses the keys. Henry tells John to start the engine with his powers, but he can't get it to work before a Mogadorian comes running, jumping over the hood of the car and stabbing Henry right in the heart, just as the car starts to work. When they manage to reach a safe place, Henry, with his last breath, tells John to find the others using the glowing blue geode they found earlier. As John and Sam ponder what to do next, the Mogadorians are unhappy that they could not capture John and kill the 2 human conspiracy theorists in the basement. The police find their bodies and, although there are no leads, they are sure that Henry and John have something to do with this. Sarah is taken for interrogation. John knows he should leave town, but instead asks Sam to drop him off at Sarah's house so he can say goodbye first. He finds her on a rooftop outside her window while a loud party is happening below. John struggles to say goodbye, dodging her questions when the police show up to arrest him. She slips from the roof, almost falling to her death, but John uses his levitation power to save her, to the great surprise of the partygoers and the police. They run away hand in hand, trying to escape the sheriff and his son Mark, who are captured by the Mogadorians. Sarah takes John to a dark room in the school where Mark leads the Mogadorians. The two try to run, but two Mogadorians catch up with them. However, the blonde woman from before appears to save the day, using alien technology to attack the Mogadorians. The woman possesses powers like John's, as well as more advanced abilities like teleportation. She takes down the two Mogadorians and reveals herself as number 6. Her protector, like Henry, is also dead. Sarah mentions a tunnel under the school that could help John escape as the other Mogadorians surround the school. Meanwhile, Sam waits outside the school in his truck with Bernie, the dog, in the front seat. The vehicle in front of him begins to tremble, and suddenly, two aliens appear. Bernie starts barking and then transforms into a monster. Now afraid, Sam runs from the car toward the school. He tells John what happened and hands him the other half of the glowing blue rock. When one of the alien monsters breaks in through the window, John uses his powers to confront it. He is about to be devoured when Bernie, who has transformed into a different kind of monster, comes to his rescue. John seizes the opportunity to help number 6, and together they kill two Mogadorians, including the one who attacked Henry. Number 6 explains that Bernie, the dog, is a chimera from Lorien that came to protect him. Bernie wins his battle against the alien monster but is gravely injured. More Mogadorians appear, and even Sam manages to take one down. One of the monsters grabs number 6 and takes her up into the sky, but John uses his light power to save her, and she kills it. He then uses his powers to destroy an energy canister strapped to one of the Mogadorians, making them explode. The explosion levels the entire stadium, but number 6 casts a protective shield over John, and they emerge victorious. After the battle, number 6 and John join the two pieces of the glowing rock, which shows them the location of the other gifted children. Mark delivers to John the box he was supposed to inherit from Henry when the time was right. He had stolen it from the evidence room at the police station. Later, John and Sarah share one last goodbye kiss, and Bernie appears, injured but alive. They get into Sam's truck, leaving Mark and Sarah behind, and set off from Paradise, Ohio, to continue their journey.